I'm Reed, and this is Kimberly. We're from the United States, and we have actually 4 children who study here at Waldorf, from infantil, 2nd, 4th, and 5th grade, respectively. Our origin story, how we arrived here, is we wanted our children to learn Spanish. And of course, we wanted to live in Spain, this wonderful country. We wanted to afford them and our family the opportunity to live abroad, to live outside the United States, to appreciate what it is to learn language, to learn a new culture.
I worked with a Madrid area school consultant, and we talked about the most gentle way to introduce our kids to Spanish through immersion, which was one path, and then also there's bilingual paths as well. And we decided to narrow our scope to active play-based learning. I have a master's in education with a focus on second language instruction. And I've seen through teaching that when students come into an environment that's all immersion, if they can have as much hands-on play-based learning as possible, it's a much gentler experience. And to have a school like this where movement is part of the instruction and these natural surroundings are so soothing. When they came here totally monolingual in English, at first at least they would understand through looking left and right to their peers and understanding what was happening through context before they could understand the Spanish instruction. And then, so I had toured about 7 schools already, and I walked in here, and it was as if it was my dream to walk in under a canopy of trees. The first classroom I saw was infantil, which is just a magical dreamland. And I met Marta and some of the other teachers, and I was so impressed by all of the intention behind all of the classes. And I love how the teachers follow the kids each year, so they really know them. I was very interested in how our kids would be assessed, how they would be tested. So what concerned me about other schools is that they would be constantly tested in Spanish, of course, about knowledge outside of Spanish. So how could they show what they knew without having the language first? There's an Einstein quote which reads, "Everyone's a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its life thinking it's not intelligent." So the last thing we wanted for our kids was to come into an environment where they would be tested against their Spanish and against other students who had been here their whole lives. We wanted them to be able to show what they knew through hands-on learning. And also just testing what we learn in a book through facts is kind of lower order thinking, just recall of memorization. We wanted them to be able to apply their knowledge and analyze things and create in order to sort of demonstrate what they're learning. And here they do that all the time. They always have projects, and they have, classes like woodworking and knitting and cooking and art and dance and all of these classes where they're able to demonstrate what they know through other means than just their language alone. So they're able to show their sort of multi-intelligences here. And that's just from the student perspective. From the teaching perspective, we have been so amazed at the talent from the instructors, how intentional everything is. Everything from, well, let's do these rhythmic memorization practices, but it's all cross-body movement to get the brain ready for math or for the clase principal. So it is inspiring to see these teachers. It's fun to go to the classroom pedagogical meetings because we always come away inspired from just how much they know. And then also, because they're with our kids each year, they've picked up on little habits that our kids have, like our son clenches his jaw, and our daughter is sensitive to sound. And so they've recommended these, Waldorf sort of specialists to help us sort of get to zero in on what is happening with our kids, and just they treat the child as a whole person, and they just measure that child against themselves. Our kids feel successful whether or not they have the full language base for it. I do want to just say, like, walking in here was, you know, some of those moments where you're just like, this is an easy yes. Like, one of those things, we don't know where we're going to live yet. We have to get our visas sorted. We have to find a house, all of these things. But this was just such an easy yes that it was the hub of all of our other decisions.
That's right. What has impressed us is, as she alluded to, it's the philosophy of how Waldorf goes about the educational experience, in that it's not simply a sequence of academic subjects strung together. Rather, it's the development, it's the holistic development of this child from infantile all the way up through the last grade. Everything is very deliberate, to include even recreation. So you see in the recess, the children are playing with elements of the earth. That reinforces the notion that we are part of the larger ecosystem, that they are building with sticks and rocks and twigs in the playground.
And mud.
Yeah, and mud, and the things that kids love to do, the things that is natural for a child to do, and that's reinforced here at Waldorf, and that they're allowed this space to test their limits safely, sin límites, as we've heard so many times, and there's tremendous value in that, and that's extended beyond simply the campus here at Waldorf Aravaca, as our youngest infantile all the way up through our oldest will go on excursions periodically throughout the year. Obviously, a day excursion for the younger ones into nature, and to understand the natural environment, the ecosystem that they belong to and that we all belong to, and appreciate it. And as they grow, the older children are doing multi-day excursions. And in that, you sense, and we sense our own children, a growing sense of self-efficacy born from this resiliency, that they are being looked after, but given the freedom to do what is natural for a child, to explore, to test their limits, age appropriate, and the excursions allowed for that. So it's really a holistic developmental model and approach that we've been impressed with and appreciate a great deal. And that extends to the family, this community, the sense of community here at Waldorf. So that here at Waldorf, my wife and I both have been involved in various workshops, craft with textiles, into the gardening, learning about permaculture alongside the teacher and my son, and there's so many ways that the school avails itself to the parents. So it's not simply a place where you drop your kids off and you go to wherever. It's a place that is part of your kind of shared identity. It's a real sense of community in the way that we know it was deliberately set up this way years ago, and that tradition continues certainly here at Waldorf Aravaca. And for that, it's been just a tremendous experience. It has afforded us much more than I think we even knew when we chose it. Year after year, we've grown as alongside our children, our families stronger for it. And we find that the parents, the teachers who share, which are a diverse group of people, from around the world, and certainly in Spain, that there's power in our diversity, but there's a shared value that we all have that brings us close together, strengthens us all as individuals, as families, and ultimately as a community. And so we're very grateful for that.
One more thing I wanted to touch on with, as far as their skills that they're building outside of Clase Principal, when they sit down to knit or to carve wood or to create a piece of art, we have seen them build their resiliency to kind of overcome obstacles. And so they'll get frustrated, but then they can do it. That sort of repetition makes them feel more confident and more capable, translates into their mainstream classes. So they'll have these successes, and it builds that sort of endurance and habit of being able to sort of stay uncomfortable while they learn.
The ability to sit and to see your way yourself through failure and the learning process that we're all familiar with. That, of course, is resiliency. In the curriculum here, the focus on focus, if you will. In today's environment, flash media, and certainly with screens in front of us so much of our days, we are constantly being redirected and pulled away and distracted, even as adults. We know that the developmental impact of having those constant distractions as a child are profound. And for our children to be free of those distractions in the supportive environment here, to build up the strength to focus. And as she discussed, the lasting effect of building resilience through focus, absent the distraction.
We have just so much gratitude for this school.
That's
It's
right.
given us a whole community.